Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Well, welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. So, in today's video, we're going to finally end our bunch of video videos that we've basically been talking about partition manipulation of virtual machines in VMware vSphere. And it's all really started off with a number of questions that I saw being asked about Windows 11, Windows 10, Windows Server 2025 and 2022, and the recovery partition. If you don't know, if you've never installed a Windows Server operating system or a modern Windows Server operating system, you will notice that at the very end of the disk, the installer actually basically creates a recovery partition, which is to aid you recovering your desktop or server should you have a blue screen of death. Well, unfortunately, that recovery partition being at the end of the disk really obstructs you easily extending, expanding the size of a virtual disk. So we've actually basically looked in the last group of videos at mechanisms how we can easily extend our disks, and we looked at the software product AOMEI, we looked at the software product EaseUS, and we concluded that we couldn't actually use those with Windows Server 2025 because although they're free, it detects the presence that they're a server operating system, and it basically pops up a little nag basically telling us that we need to pay some money. We did successfully use those products on Windows 11, and we did some videos to cover them. And I also showed you the good old favorite, this particular video here, basically using gparted live CD-ROM, which is free and open source, and that allows us basically to manipulate any partition on any operating system, including Windows Server 2025. I also showed you how to manually remove the partition using diskpart. So, and then we had a little look at, I promised, at using VMware Converter or VMware vCenter Converter Standalone. I think it's its official title. Yeah, VMware vCenter Converter Standalone. And I explained to you why it got that why I think it actually basically got that name in the last video. In the last video, we actually used the product successfully to expand the virtual disk and also the operating system in one process using VMware Converter on Windows 11. So back today, and we're back to our old favorite. We're back, remember, to our lab server, our ASRock or our Datto server, and we're going to have a little look at the server that I created all that way back, Cyrus Tape 03, which was our tape server, and of course I did lots of videos on tape servers and adding them to Veeam, etc. So because this is a Windows Server 2025 and because it's on a standalone ESXi host, I wanted to show you that you can use VMware vCenter Server to successfully convert a virtual machine on a standalone version of ESXi. And also we can use exactly the same recipe and the process to expand our disk and partition in one process as well. So I'm connected here via RDP into Cyrus Tape 03. It currently has a 90 gig NTFS partition. It also has a 90 gig disk. And of course, at the very end there, we've got this recovery partition. So let's go for an expansion of 150 gig today. That's where we're going to take that's where we're going to extend it to. And I also wanted to show you as well, and just a reminder that you can use, if we just get rid of that, we can also use VMware Converter to get us up out of a snapshot issue as well. And if I just actually have a little look at this particular ESXi server. Sorry, if you look at this virtual machine, you can see that we're actually basically running a snapshot in it as well. I don't know why. I can't remember actually basically doing that. There was obviously a particular reason I did. So this has a snapshot as well. So the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to shut down that virtual machine. So I'm basically just going to turn around and say guest OS shutdown. Because as I mentioned before, with our VMware vCenter converter, and let's just bring that, maximize that. We can only, if we wanted to actually convert the machine live, then we would install VMware vCenter converter actually on the operating system. But I'm just going to shut this down, and we're going to do exactly the same thing again. We're going to follow exactly the same recipe. As you can see the last conversion that we did successfully when we converted our Windows 11 machine. So I'm going to follow exactly the same recipe. Hopefully the machine is powered down. I can see in the background here that it has powered down. So I'm going to click convert machine. So it's powered off. It is a VMware infrastructure virtual machine. Now, my bad here. This particular ESXi host, this HomeLab one that we've been dealing with, is still in sort of kind of build mode. So there's no FQDN for it at the moment. I don't think I've created an FQDN for it. So, of course, the username is going to be root now, followed by the password. And as I sort of said to you before, if you try to do this when the machine is actually connected to VMware vCenter server, you're going to get a little polite message that says, please go to VMware vCenter Converter to convert this. This is not connected to a VMware vCenter server yet. So I'm going to click next. Okay, it's going to pop up and tell me about a certificate warning. And of course, we've done a lot of videos on replacing certificates on ESXi and VMware vCenter server. So I'm just going to click the button that says, do not display warning again. And I'm going to click ignore. Okay, so we've only got one virtual machine on there at the moment, which is our Windows Server 2025, which is powered off. So I'm going to select that, followed by next. It's going to go off again. It's going to download the details of that machine. It's going to have a look at what components are in the virtual machine, how much memory, how much RAM, what the network interfaces are, because it's going to recreate all those in the newly converted machine. Now, it's quite interesting. It's going to find, of course, as well. That's interesting, actually, here. We could actually convert that to... I need to do that later, actually, because I want to bring in that machine to our cluster. Anyway, I did say this was all about ESXi, so I'm not going to basically convert that machine from ESXi to VMware vCenter server, which I could do, which is again the flexibility that we have with this free product, VMware Converter. We can do V2Vs everywhere. So as I said to you before, some people do use it as a backup tool, but it does give us the ability, if there's no vMotion or migration between LANs or whatever, then and your VMware Converter workstation has access to both of those, then you can bridge VLANs, you can bridge networks, you can bridge WANs. If you've got a big enough pipe, which is got some good latency on it, some low latency, you can also use VMware vCenter server across a WAN as well. So anyway, so I'm just going to specify our ESX host 121, and I'm going to specify root, and I'm going to specify the password again, followed by next. It's going to ask me for a destination name. So I'm actually basically going to call this Windows Server 2025. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to say new Windows Server 2025, followed by next. Okay, so we're going to put that on data store 1. I think we're probably going to have yeah, I'm just looking here at the free space. We're quite tight. So we've got 156 gigs free. So that's going to be enough to create our new it's going to be tight, 150. Yeah, we may not be able to power it on because, of course, we've also got to have space for, I wonder if we've got another data store on here. I've actually got NFS ISOs. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on NFS ISOs just temporarily. I'll have to remember to delete it afterwards. What I was saying there is that you've got to be a little bit careful with VMware vSphere because, of course, I said at the beginning we wanted to make a 150 gig disk. That would only leave 6 gig remaining. Now, we need to have space on the data store, not only for snapshots, but we also need space for the swap file. Now the swap file is equal to the memory in the machine. And that's 16 gig. So we wouldn't be able to power on that machine because there'll be no space left on the data store for ESXi to create it. So again, don't go completely silly when you're creating these virtual machines on your data stores. But, don't think for one moment because you've got a 500 gig data store that you can use 500 gigs for a virtual machine. You can't, because you won't be able to power it on because there won't be anywhere for VMware ESXi to actually basically create the swap file. So I'm just going to temporarily put this on NFS ISOs. Might be a little bit slower, this conversion, because that's obviously spinning Rust across NFS. You may have, in the last video, you heard me say that you can select a virtual machine version. We were on ESXi 7 in the last conversion. So we've got a few more versions now, version 20 and version 2021, version 21 in ESXi 8.03. E, of course, because that's the free version. Okay, so I'm going to click next. So now it's actually basically going to present us with what. So we're not going to change the vCPUs. We're not going to change the memory, and we're not going to change the NIC. I'm just having a little look to see here whether or not that it was going to have a little look, because we've got a PCI controller in here. Of course, we've got the one that's passed through, but of course, that's a physical device, so that it can't virtualize that. So what we are going to do, copy all this and maintain layout. I'm going to say thin first of all, because it's running on NFS. I'm going to do select volumes to copy, and I'm going to click advanced. And of course, this is where we get the opportunity to have a look at the source volumes, and the total space is 89.23 gig. But I want to change the destination layout, so I'm going to click the destination layout, and I'm going to specify a size in gigabyte. And I actually basically came out and said I want to make that 150 gig. If we wanted to reduce the size, then I could turn around and go, well, let's reduce the size to 39.27, which is the current space that's used by the operating system at the moment. So that'd be a little bit silly, really, to be honest, reducing the size to the minimum size. But anyway, let's just go back and do what we were doing. So 150 gig, enter, followed by next. Okay, I'm just going to have a little look. Okay, so we're ready now basically to submit the job. So I'm just going to click finish, and it's going to submit the job. Task ID will be 2. Hopefully, let's just do a refresh. Hope that it might have actually basically, there we go, there's 2. Okay, so as I sort of kind of said to you before in the last video, if you've never done VMware vCenter conversions before, I wrote an article many years ago. If I can find the link to that on Experts Exchange, I'll put that in the description, which is a FAQ about V2Vs and P2Vs. The only difference, really, the process is exactly the same if you do a P2V. You're just doing it on a physical server, not a virtual server, but the process is exactly the same. But I wrote an article about P2Vs and V2Vs, an FAQ about them. And I think I actually coined the phrase that P2Vs and V2Vs, 50% really is technical knowledge, 25% is experience, and 25% is luck. They do go wrong a lot. And I think I also probably to man has said that I've written more articles, more videos, answered more questions about V2Vs than any other subject in VMware land. And as I actually sort of kind of mentioned that, generally by experience, if a task fails 1 to 2%, on average, they can fail between 1 to 2%. And they can fail between 96 and 100% at the end of the process. At the end of the process, 96 to 100% is when it's actually doing the conversion. So if you specified any parameters like install VMware tools or change CPUs or change the size of the disk, change partitions, that's when that's happening. 96% and greater, 96 to 100%. And at the beginning of the process, 1% to 2% is when it's actually basically starting the job off and it's doing low-level disk cloning and file cloning and stuff like that. if you manage to get above 3%, then it's probably a good chance that you're going to get a successful P2V. However, if it fails between 2%, 2 and 3% and 96%, that's usually because there's been a network fault or there's been a read fault on the disk while it's actually basically trying to clone it. So here we go. 3%, I'm just going to wait to see whether or not that actually basically gets to 4%. It's getting to 4%. It's now telling us that the estimated time remaining is 1 hour and 23 minutes. So I'm going to go away and get my late breakfast. It's just coming up to midday here on Easter Sunday. And don't think any of the shops will be open today because Easter Sunday is classed as a religious day like Christmas Day. And I've already eaten my Easter eggs. So I don't actually have any Easter eggs. But I'm going to go down and get a late breakfast just after I've had this. First espresso of the day. Anyway, so as always, I'll speed this up in post-processing. One of the benefits that we've got of doing video editing. So I'll speed this up in post and I'll come back when it's completed and hopefully I'll remember this time. And then I'll summarize. Then I'm going to have a little think. I've got to go out and fix my car. Not that there's anything wrong with my car. I've been adding a tow bar on and I've got a problem now with the electrics. So I need to sort out the electric problem on the car. And have a little think about the next group of videos that we're going to have a little look at Hancock's VMware half hour. I've been a little bit distracted because I've been sort of kind of pulled. We've done a little bit on Synology, and then I was pulled into a bit on VM backup and replication for tape servers, pulled into partitions. Then we were pulled into our little mini series on our home lab and flash and NVMe and memory tiering and all that sort of kind of stuff. So I'm going to have a good think about what areas that we want to cover next. And I think maybe I might actually return to iSCSI and NFS. I think with VMware vSphere. And we'll have a little look at doing those on a Synology NAS. And if we're lucky, if we're really, really lucky, and I can remember, and I can get enough power and networking here, then we might be able to spin up an old Dell Equalogic iSCSI unit as well. Not promising that one because not quite sure really whether or not that's going to spin into action these days. Okay, so we're 44. We've got 4 minute run. We've been running for 4 minutes. We're 44 minutes remaining. The last conversion took 12 minutes. 13 minutes, I think that was the one we did with Windows 11. So this one's going to take a little bit longer. And again, just on that note, I think I have been asked questions before as to how long does a VMware conversion take? Well, how long is a piece of string? There's lots of factors really. The speed of data store, source speed of data store, destination speed of data store. And also networking has a big role to play in how fast these things operate. Anyway, so with that, I'll come back shortly and summarize at the very end when the conversion is complete. So sometime later that day, actually didn't take that long, 33 minutes. So our VMware vCenter Converter Standalone conversion, or VMware vCenter or VMware Converter conversion has completed successfully. We've got a lovely green tick completed. We've got all the way to 100% with no errors. So if I just turn that off and have a little look in the background here, then we can see, if we look at the virtual machines and our ESXi host, we've got a new Windows Server 2025. If we have a little look at that virtual machine, and we have a little look at snapshots, manage snapshots, then no snapshots present. That's good. And if we connect to that machine via RDP, Just let me turn that on. Okay, so in disk management, we can see that we've got our 133 megabyte healthy EFI system partition. We've got our 150 gig OS partition, which of course is what we wanted to do. We want to increase the size of this to 150 gig. And at the same time, we want to increase that partition to 150 gig. And we've got our 674 megabyte recovery partition on the end. So there you go. That's it. In this little mini series in talking about partitions and recovery partitions and how we move them, how we delete them using gparted live CD-ROM, AOMEI partition assistant, and Ease US partition manager, and finally our friend VMware Converter. So thank you very much for watching another Hancock's VMware half hour. If you've liked this video, then please thumbs up, like, and subscribe. If you don't like it, then don't like it, give it a thumbs down and let me know why. Okay, so my name's Andrew Hancock, and I'll be back soon for another Hancock's VMware half hour. So in the meantime, all there is for me to say, is goodbye. Cheerio now. Bye-bye.